Hello and welcome back to GearHeadGeeks, where in this video we are going to show you how to synchronize two-cylinder carburetors. We could do 4 cylinders, but I don't have a 4-cylinder bike to demonstrate on, and I have a bike that needs synchronizing. So let's get to it. So to get started, we need to do a few things to understand what you need to do to synchronize carburetors. The first thing you need to do is you have to have some sort of port to be able to hook up your vacuum gauges. In this case, Kawasaki has got one right here, if you can see that one, and I'll go to the other side, and one right here. Okay, these two guys, you unscrew these and you can put there's got to be some sort of adapter to hook those up. And the adapters I got with a V-bore kit that has all sorts of adapters. I've got also other adapters in my toolbox to deal with these, but those came from years back. And I've got another DigiSync kit here which has got a bunch of adapters in it. And I don't know if those work with this or not, but we can sure find out. And once you have your adapters figured out, then you need to have some sort of device to check the vacuum. And what we have here is a multitude. We have some vacuum gauges. These are from Vevor. We also have the stick type, and these are mercury sticks, so mercury will rise up in here, and these work very, very well. And I also have a DigiSync. So we're going to take a look and see all three and see how they all work. And so the next thing you need is some sort of fuel supply. Now, if you can get at this stuff with the gas tank on, it's almost impossible to get at the device that you need to adjust to synchronize with a fuel tank on it. So I have a fuel supply, which has got a little valve on it, and I've got it hooked up to the carbs. These carbs. Okay, so the bike we're using here is a KZ400. The reason I'm doing the synchronization now, I've already done one once before, is the rings have been broken in. We had a cylinder head gasket that was leaking because it was aftermarket, and we went on ahead and fixed that, and that's in some other videos. But this bike the valves have been seated in. It's got a couple 100 miles on it of me just driving around and doing whatever, and I'm running it hard. And now it's time to synchronize these carburetors. And what I did do, though, is I did remove them and just checked them over just to make sure everything was okay. Everything was fine. I just was making sure there's no crap in the float bowls, and they were perfectly clean. So we have a nice clean start, and we're ready to go on ahead and resynchronize these things. They might be okay, but they may not be. We've got fuel, and we'll turn that on, and then we're going to warm this guy up. It's you don't want to be doing a synchronization on a cold engine. It just doesn't work. So the first thing we really want to do here is go on ahead and warm this guy up before we even start any other kind of operation. So we've got a nice breezy day. It's kind of cool and nice out. Beautiful day. And we're just going to warm this guy up. So the first thing I need to do is get some gas in here. And if you can see that. And I'm just going to turn on this valve. And these carburetors should fill because this is higher than the carb. So away we go. And I'm just kind of watching here to see if this is coming down any at all. And I can see it moving down ever so slowly. It was about at that dot. Now it's kind of moved down. So we're pretty good. We got some fuel. And I'm going to start this guy and let it warm up. Choke. Enricher. Not choke. It says choke, but it's an enricher. And a little power here, and Just give it a rip. So the next thing you need to do is we need to get the right adapter for our to do our synchronization. I have removed the little screw on the side, and I went to the VBOR kit, and there are different sets in there, and these seem to be the right thread, and you just screw those in, and we'll go do the other side, and then we need to hook up our hoses. So now I can go on ahead and attach the hose to the gauge, to the bike, and that's all there is to it. You just need to get them hooked up. So we have this guy here, hose, our left cylinder, just moving on down to the engine. Okay, so I'm going to go on ahead, and I got it started. It's a little warm, but it's not really operating temperature yet. So we'll be back when we're up to temperature, and we'll be looking at the gauges and a couple of things. After you get your hoses hooked up to your vacuum gauges, and you get your adapters in however they're going to be. Now, some of them use adapters. Some of them actually have little spigots on the intake boot, or might be drilled into the cylinder. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but multi-cylinder 4-strokes usually have something like that. 2-strokes may not. And you have to synchronize those a different way anyway. But what we want to do first here is, once you get the engine up to operating temperature, and that means that basically it's been idling or running at least for 5 minutes, I guess that's a good number. Then what you want to do is you want to adjust your air or your fuel screws to get the highest vacuum reading on your gauges. Even if they're out of sync, it doesn't matter. Just get the highest vacuum reading on it. The one thing to remember, the one thing to remember is, if you have a screw that is behind the slide or behind the center of the carburetor, it's an air screw. If it is in front of the slide, closest to the engine, it is a fuel screw. So just kind of remember that, and that helps get the mixture right in the lower 0 to 1/4 throttle. And you want to do that to get the carburetors to sync up right. So now that our engine is warmed up we've got our gauges hooked up. We're all hooked up to the carbs. Everything is good. And I have gone on ahead and adjusted the air screws, the fuel screws actually, because the KZ400 uses fuel screws, till I got about the highest I could get on the gauges. There might be some fine-tuning adjustments, but you just need to get them close so that you can synchronize these carburetors. So the next thing you want to do is you have to figure out what you're going to be adjusting. And what we're going to be adjusting here, and I'm going to move the camera around a little bit, is, let me get some hoses out of the way. Way down inside there, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's an adjuster screw. Let's see if you can find the tip of my screwdriver here. Okay, there it is. And way down inside there, right? Way down in there, there's an adjuster screw. So there's a nut and there's a screw, and that is what we're going to be using to change the synchronization on this. Many carburetors are going to be different, but there's always going to be something just like that, whether it's a 4-cylinder, 2-cylinder, or whatever, to do that. Now, these are tied together. If you have like a V-twin, where you have 2 separate carburetors and they're just on cables, well, you just adjust the cables. But in this case, these are tied together, so there is that synchronizer, that adjustment screw there to get these carbs synced up. So what you need to do is break the nut loose and get it ready to be turned. Okay, so in our case, the adjustment nut is an 8mm. I've just got a long extension here with an 8mm socket on it. I'm just going to break that loose. And it's loose. Now, this is the one thing we have to be careful of whenever you're, when you're tightening and loosening this stuff, being able to make sure that when you tighten down the lock nut, you don't lose your synchronization. So you may have to work it back and forth a little bit. But right now, the lock nut is loose. I've got a nice long screwdriver here that I can reach down in and be able to turn that. Okay, so now we've got everything hooked up. Our lock nut is loose. We are ready to go on ahead, and let's get this guy started up, and let's take a look at our gauges. Sorry about that, but what we want to do here is once it's running, we want to be able to get these needles so they're just barely moving, and that gives us the greatest amount of vacuum in there. So there's little adjusters on each of these, and we're only using these 2 guys right here. So what we'll do here is we'll start it up, and then we'll just kind of run these down until the needles are just moving. Now, as the RPM changes, that may change, so we need to make sure that all that we do is if it starts to bounce too much or not enough, we just want to make sure that they're just bouncing a little bit, and that means it's adjusted just right. And I have to shut it off and start it back up each time so I can talk to you. But what we're going to be doing now is, now that we've established that this one here is running with more vacuum than this one, what we want to do here is get them even. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to turn on I'm going to go turn at the adjustment screw, and you can watch the needles change as we go along. So as you can see, they both, you know, and they don't have, when I say perfect, I mean, if they're within 1 or 2, it's actually plus or minus 1 or 2. It's very, very, it's kind of a loose setting because they'll never be perfect. But these are really good. These are really, really close right now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try some different stuff. Okay, so let's see what our carb sticks have to say. So what I've done here is I've taken and hooked up these two guys, this one being the left cylinder, this one being the right cylinder. There's a vent on the back that you have to make sure that you open up. And we've got these guys hooked up, and let's just see what it looks like. Make sure you can see, and it looks like you can. And as you can see, I jumped a little bit more, and they're almost perfect right now. These are very, very accurate. So these are my favorites, but you know, these guys are semi-accurate. They're, you know, they're plus or minus 1. These are a lot closer. So we've got this guy almost perfect right now. And as you can see, as you could see, that these guys gave us a very, very accurate. These are super accurate. They're more accurate than gauges by far, but the gauges work fairly well. They get you within plus or minus 1, which is just fine. But these are now perfect. So we're going to try a third option here, and we'll see how that does. Okay, so our next option is going to be the DigiSync. Okay, I've hooked up the left carburetor to this guy and the right carburetor to this guy. Okay, so it looks like everything is 0. We're good. About the same, 31, 32. It wavers up and down a little bit. There we go. And as you can see, they're staying fairly even. So the carburetors are just right. And this works pretty good. This is, you know, within a millibar, just kind of like this. They're fairly accurate. This is going to be the most accurate, but that is what it is. So we have synchronized the carburetors. So the last thing we want to do is I'm going to run down the lock nut, make sure it's tight. And then what we'll do is we'll restart the bike and make sure that it stayed there. And after locking down the nut, we're in good shape. So after locking down the nut, we see that we're still synchronized. We're in good shape. Our carburetors are synchronized. And all that's left is to remove our adapters, put our plugs back in, and we're in good shape. I've got many adapters from different things. The Vivor kit is pretty darn good when it comes to these adapters. The gauges are good. They're a little fiddly, but you know, once you get them set up right, they work fine. They work just fine. I mean, what we're going to do here is we're just going to put these guys back in, and be careful not to burn yourself because the engine's still hot. Get those nice and snug, and do the other side, and we'll talk about what we've done. So let's take a quick look at the tools that we use to get this job done. The first thing I'd have here is, this is an IV cart thingy. It's got wheels on the bottom, you can roll it around, and it's got little hooks for IVs. And I just took and made a little thing that fit in the top to be able to mount these gauges on. It's got hooks on it, so we can use those hooks for our different types of vacuum gauges. Now, these are carb sticks. These carb sticks have been around for, I probably bought these 40 years ago. And these have got mercury in them. So mercury's bad news, we all know that. So they do sell them, but they have a different fluid in it. It's blue that you can use. Works well. They're inexpensive, they work well, and they're very, very accurate. I mean, you can just see the teeny tiny differences as it goes along. Second, we have vacuum gauges. These were from Vevor. The nice thing about the Vevor gauges is they come with a whole slew of different adapters. We use these two guys here for what we've just been doing, but you can see the different adapters that they have. It's a pretty good kit. It really isn't bad. It's not very expensive, like everything in Vevor. It's just pretty darn good. Then we have the DigiSync. I mean, I'm a tech guy. I write code for slot machines and whatnot, and so high-tech stuff I like. And DigiSync, these seem to work fairly darn well. They're a little fiddly at first. You have to let it calibrate, and you got to make sure that your hoses and stuff are tight. It's a little weird the way that they have these coming out. It would be better if they came out the side or something like that, but it is what it is, and it works pretty well. I think it's a good way to synchronize carbs. It has different adjustments for the different types of readings. Not too bad of a kit. It really isn't, and it's it wasn't super expensive. I don't remember what I paid for it. I bought these a few years back. They may have done some redesigning or whatever, but just DigiSync, not bad. It does the job quite well. 2 cylinders, 4 cylinders, great. And I think they even have a 6-cylinder one. Another thing is I have this fuel holder. I got this off of Amazon, and it's just a regular fuel holder. It's got a valve in it. This is probably the Motion Pro one is probably really, really good. This is kind of a knockoff of it, but it works well. You put your fuel in there. It's got a cap on it. Has a valve that comes with it. It works pretty darn well. So this setup is not bad. I just have so much stuff hanging off of it. I got a timing light hanging off of it so I can wheel things around, but it's not a terrible way to have this kind of a setup because you can hang stuff off of it and it works well. So that's all there is to it to synchronize a set of carburetors. It's really not a hard job. You just need the right equipment to do it, and getting a set of vacuum gauges is a worthwhile endeavor if you're ever going to be working on your bike or other bikes, or you want to make your bike run right. A 4-cylinder is a little more complicated, but not as much as you might think. What you do with a 4-cylinder is you treat the 2 right-hand cylinders as just like we did as it is a twin, and then you treat the 2 left-hand cylinders as a twin, and you get those even to each other and get these guys even to each other, and then there'll be another adjustment that allows you to get them even with both sides. It's really not that hard. The next time I get a 4-cylinder in, we'll do a 4-cylinder. But for doing a twin, that's really all you need to do. Have the equipment that you need, hook up your vacuum, find the adjuster screw for it. It's always in the service manual. There's a lot of different ways. They might even tell you, some of the service manuals actually tell you what it is. You can't use the readings of the vacuum gauges. Sometimes it'll say, oh yeah, you've got low vacuum. Well, this is not a V8 engine or a 4-cylinder engine where you're just hooking up one hose to it and trying to get a bunch of vacuum out of it. You just have these 2 cylinders popping away over there. Always remember to get your air screws or your fuel screws close. They don't have to be perfect, just get them close. Then you just synchronize them up and your bike will run super smooth, super fine. Now, if if it's like plus or minus 1 or 2 bars, and if it's even slightly off, you won't feel the difference. That vacuum is not that, it's not that critical. The difference in adjustment between 1 and 2 is just almost nothing. So bear that in mind. But the closer you get it, the better. So hopefully this is helpful. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and we'll see you next time here on Gearhead Geeks.